North Korea unilaterally informed the South Korean government that it would completely exclude South Korea from the Rajan Hassan project and cooperate only with China and Russia. This type of tug-of-war diplomacy is familiar to North Korea. In the case of other countries, if the investment goes wrong, the government will be criticized by the opposition and the people, but in North Korea, where everyone lives happily, under the supreme dignity, there is no need to worry about that. By the way, contrary to what the North Koreans expected, things started to go a little strange. As soon as it became known that Jin Hu-kong was negative about inter-Korean economic cooperation, Russian and Chinese companies all at once reviewed the risks of investment in North Korea. If you see Kong Jin-hu doing that, isn't economic cooperation with North Korea difficult? If you look at the cases of MT Kumgang tourism and special economic zones, the risk is not great. If you see OTK companies stepping out, wouldn't it be that you got some other source? North Korea is pretending to be working on this project, and it looks like they have a different plan. Let's think. If it's a job that makes money, there's no way Kong Jin-hu wouldn't jump in. South Korea's politicians were also cautious about the reaction of public opinion. If the negotiations go wrong or problems arise during the course of the negotiations due to Kong Jin-hu's remarks, he may be criticized for pursuing the project without safety devices. In addition, it was the same for Korean companies to review their investments. Therefore, despite the president's will to improve inter-Korean relations, it was difficult to move forward with enthusiasm. In this situation, President Ronald tweeted as if fanning a house on fire. In this situation, President Ronald tweeted as if fanning a house on fire. Jin Hu-kong acted very wisely. The best negotiating strategy in negotiating with those who don't keep their promises is not to negotiate. So I didn't shake hands with Chairman Kim. If North Korea had kept its promise, the North Korea-US negotiations would have taken place sooner. Only then did Vice Chairman Ri Hae-ryong realize that he had underestimated Kong Jin-hu. Kong Jin-hu's prestige was much greater than North Korea had thought. No wonder he has had tremendous success in all his investments so far. The money he earned is equivalent to Korea's GDP. Had he been a North Korean, there would have been no need for North Korea to seek investment. Of course, if he did, he would have been executed or sent to a political prison camp before he had made all the money. It has already been difficult to attract investment due to all kinds of sanctions, but when even the existing trading companies showed signs of reconsidering their investments or withdrawing from them, they were just amazed. There were voices of criticism from the North Korean leadership against the negotiating team. Hearing harsh rebukes from the supreme leader whom he respected over the phone, Vice Chairman Ri Hae-ryong shouted in anger as soon as the call ended. Jin Hu-kong. You bastard, recoil. Until just a few days ago, conservative media criticized Hyo Chong-min and Kong Jin-hu, holding hands and selling the country to North Korea. In this regard, conservative A-tubes were also attacking by uploading various videos. But when Kong Jin-hu broke the negotiating board, everyone couldn't help but be shocked. Blaming the government is like taking the side after the earthquake, and blaming the government is like taking the side of the government. The same is true for the new political party, which is a headache. Where in the world is there a businessman who can act like that in a meeting of North and South Korean officials? The ruling party leaders were outraged. No, what was Kong Jin-hu thinking when he said that? I'm going to quietly eat naengmyeon or something. This is not what the government is watering. Even if you paint the president's face, it's oily. Right now, inter-Korean relations are on the brink of ice. Who called Kong Jin-hu over there? Still, one good thing from the new politics party's point of view is that the public's attention was focused on the Liberal People's Party. What do you think about CEO Kong Jin-hu's actions? Representative Yoon Nok-young, who had been raising her voice at the protest site until yesterday in response to reporters' questions, quickly changed her words. It is not right to provoke North Korea too much. The most important thing is the safety of our people, isn't it? We must refrain from actions that endanger the people. The Japanese media carefully reported on President Yoon Nak-young's remarks and poured out skeptical and negative articles about inter-Korean economic cooperation. No, what the hell are you talking about? If you talk to North Korea, you say you should, and if you say you don't, you say you don't. It seems to represent the Japanese position. Yoon Kazaki is patriotic today too. Ganbait. This is our constituency member. Sorry. I'm sorry for everything. So, is Jin Ho-kong left-wing or right-wing? I met President Vysotsky. Russia is the largest country in the world, but has a population of only about 150 million. Therefore, there are many areas that are underdeveloped and capital is required to develop them. Because of this, he was busy visiting delegations and businessmen from around the world. These days, he doesn't even seem to be late and he seems to make good use of time for talks. He burst out laughing as soon as he saw me. You gave North Korea a good shot. So why did you say that? Chairman Kim is well aware that there is no way to guarantee the progress of the project. It would be even more impossible in the circumstances in which I spoke. In a situation like the present one, it might seem like you're doing it with your back being pushed. After a while, President Vysotsky stopped laughing and said with a serious expression, "The role of North Korea is very important in the development of the Far East." I know. It was in the early 2000s that the Rajan-Hassan project and the railroad and gas pipeline connection were first talked about. If all goes well, the railroad between Korea and Russia will be running sooner or later. It will cost trillions of won, but considering the economic benefits that will occur in the future, it is nothing. Therefore, both Korea and Russia are active, but the problem is still the will of the North Korean side. President Vysotsky nodded his head. What do you think? Do you think the business will go down again? I do not know. The railway and gas pipeline connection project is carried out in such a way that Russia, an ally of North Korea, invests and South Korea takes over a stake in Russia. It's such a big business, so once development starts, it's not easy to stop. That's why North Korea keeps saying it's doing it and it's just watching. Do you really intend to connect the railroad and gas pipelines, or is the rim just ringing again? North Korea does not need to spend a single penny on this project. All you have to do is sit back and collect your money in return for letting them pass through the territory. If it had been in another country, they would have been begging them to provide various types of support, whether it be railroads or gas pipelines. Common sense, it is normal to do it unconditionally. The problem is that North Korea is a country where common sense does not work. You can see just how much President Vysotsky is paying attention to this project by holding various events and forums in Vladivostok. There are three main reasons for such active development in the Far East. The first is to contain Chinese capital. As with all border countries, Russia and China have been through border disputes for a long time. Following the Treaty of Nerchinsk, the border was confirmed by signing the Treaty of Beijing in exchange for mediating the Second Opium War. As a result of the treaty, the territories of the Primorsky territory were transferred to Russia. At that time, the Qing dynasty was at its weakest, and China regarded it as an unequal treaty. Currently, Chinese capital and manpower are pouring in and exercising their power in the Primorsky Sea. From the Russian perspective, if the Far East is left in a backward state as it is, it could be transferred to Chinese capital, so it is necessary to proceed with development quickly. The second reason is the North Pole Passage. For most countries, global warming is a disaster. But Russia is different. Due to global warming, the Arctic ice has melted and the Northern Sea route has begun to open. This will dramatically shorten the shipping route from the Far East to Europe. The third and final reason is that the Asian market has grown in importance due to Western sanctions. What would happen if a railroad and gas pipeline were connected through North Korea? Added value is created even if the goods in Area A go only to Area B. When people and goods come and go through railroads, the local economy naturally develops. If the Trans-Siberian Railway and the Trans-Korean Railway are connected, it will be possible to transport not only to Korea, but also to Japan. The gas pipeline could also be extended to Japan in the future. The Far East, which used to be a frontier, will be reborn as the center of East Asia. One of Russia's ambitions is to build the TWR following Kaliningrad. Building a nuclear power plant is to attract industrial complexes. But even considering that, the number of reactors is large. Perhaps it was because they considered selling electricity to North Korea in the future. Electricity is needed for economic development in Rajan. We're not the only ones interested here. Politicians from the United States, China, and Japan are also showing great interest in this matter. This is because the geopolitical location of the Korean Peninsula is so important. At present, relations between the United States and Russia are very friendly. First of all, the U.S. foreign strategy is that President Ronald is close with President Vysotsky and holds hands with Russia to contain China. So, I'm not going to tackle anything special on this one. It seems like Japan doesn't like it, but I don't have to worry about it anyway, so I pass. Another question is Chinese. After a long time in politics, you realize how important timing is. President Hu Chongmin has a strong will and North Korea needs money. And there are some of the richest investors in the world. I laughed at that. I am willing to do my best to help. It's been a while since the North Korean media have been accusing me of being an asshole in the world. I sensed that the atmosphere was going strangely, so at some point I shut my mouth. Instead of withdrawing, the North Korean negotiating team worked hard to improve negative perceptions about investment in North Korea by contacting China and Russia under the water. The South Korean negotiating team watched the situation without taking a stand. I met with Minister of Foreign Affairs Kim Song-cheol. The reason he came instead of the Minister of Unification was probably because he had known each other before. After a short greeting, he immediately talked about the main point. The North Korean side is putting pressure on our government, saying that we can hold inter-Korean talks in the future only if Representative Kang Jin-woo apologizes. So what did you say? I was telling the truth. It's not something the government can control. I laughed bitterly. Did you believe it? If you look at what has happened so far, you can easily tell that it is not a lie. Minister of Foreign Affairs Kim Song-cheol continued to speak. It's true that I don't say it, but there are a lot of cool people in the negotiating team. In the meantime, North Korea has been wasting time by overturning the board or having a conversation for the sake of dialogue if it's a little sloppy. It doesn't work this time, so I'm confused. Of course, we keep asking for an apology. I have no intention of apologizing. He nodded. I thought you would. There seems to be some misunderstanding, but my point was not to criticize North Korea, but to advise for successful economic cooperation. As I am well aware that this economic cooperation is important and of great benefit, I will clarify that point. It would be nice to see that the pressure and persuasion from the government worked. Anyway, it is a situation in which we have to say a positive position even because of Russia, which is pursuing work. Wouldn't it be better to save the government's face as soon as possible? Minister of Foreign Affairs Kim Song-cheol was not happy with my words. Thank you for doing that. We will talk about that with the North Korean side. As I am not investing myself, the rest is up to the government to take care of. Where can the government have 1 or 2 experts on North Korea? If you put a plate like this, they'll do just fine. That's how you get paid with taxes. Professor Petrov and Professor Mohan have arrived in Vladivostok. Carrie, an assistant professor, was also there. We met after a long time and greeted each other warmly, and I introduced Ellie. Eli was delighted and she greeted them both. I've met Professor Mohan before, but this is the first time I've met Professor Petrov. Professor Mohan said with a smile. I was wondering when they would get married, and they finally do. Professor Petrov asked. When is the wedding? It's next spring. Haha, it's been a while. Professor Petrov is coming from Kaliningrad. Even if the experiment was successful, he did not know what problems would arise during the commercialization process, so he stayed at the construction site and checked the problems himself. It is difficult to commercialize anything, but as he developed the technology with commercialization in mind from the beginning, there were no major problems. So he decided to build it in Vladivostok too. We held a joint lecture at the Far Eastern Federal University at the request of the forum organizer. The Far Eastern Federal University is the largest university in the Far East, and it is also the place where the first Korean language department was opened in Russia. Students flocked to the large auditorium like clouds. The seats were full and the simple chairs placed in each aisle were also full. Eli said, looking around the full auditorium. After all, Russia has a lot of beautiful women. I think there are a lot of Jinhoo fans among me. Still, Ellie is the prettiest. At my words, she smiled. You have to keep saying that. Read more at wuxiax.com. Russian students were very enthusiastic about learning. All of them showed great interest in the future development of inter-Korean relations and the development of the Far East. I talked about a rosy future for inter-Korean economic cooperation and development in the Far East. If North and South Korea are connected by rail and gas pipelines are extended, Vladivostok will become a central city in East Asia on the Far East. For that to happen, this project must be successful. We ask all students to pay attention and watch over us. After the important work and meeting was over, I could barely breathe. It was only a few days, probably because there were a lot of accidents, but somehow it felt like a long time. I want to go home soon. Ellie let out a long sigh. I came here and did a really good job, she said. I can't even play properly. You mean you're here to work? At my words, Ellie pouted her lips. Still, it's too much to just go back and forth between the hotel and the forum. I didn't even go to the hotel pool a few times. Right. Still, Ellie was by her side, so she wasn't bored. She said, Ellie, she seemed to have made up her mind soon. I can't go out on a date tonight. A date? If you come all the way here, you should visit the city at least once. Isn't it hard? You might be tired, but unlike me, you are full of stamina. I was led by Eli's hand and headed to Arbot Street, a hot place in Vladivostok. The shape of the buildings in the city was a little different from that of Moscow. After all, it's the same country about 9,000 kilometers away. If you take the Trans-Siberian Railway, you have to travel for a week. Ellie, who is of mixed race, doesn't stand out that much, and there are a lot of foreigners, so it's hard to recognize us. I thought that was a big mistake. The streets were heaven and earth for Koreans. No joke, there were more Koreans than Russians. Isn't that person Kong Jin-hoo? I heard that you are attending the Asian Economic Forum, and you are really here. Wow. You will see Jin-hoo Kong here. Can I take a picture? Since when has Vladivostok been such a popular tourist destination? We enjoyed dating without paying attention to people's gaze. At the closing ceremony of the Asian Economic Forum, the participating countries will issue a joint statement emphasizing cooperation for the prosperity and development of Asia. We returned to Korea the day before the closing ceremony. Ellie had to go to work, so as soon as she got off the plane, she headed straight for the Golden Gate. Taekyu, who was playing in the OTK building, also came over. Hyunju Nuna looked at me and said it was a headache. I went and did it again. I'm not even mad about it now. North Korea Theme Week is riding a roller coaster. As the North Korean negotiating team was kicked out of their seats by my remarks, the theme of North Korea plummeted, but then surged again after I spoke at the Far Eastern Federal University. Taekyu also said something. Politicians are also noisy. Whether it's liberals or conservatives, when it comes to North Korea, we have a lot to say to each other. Right now in the National Assembly, it seems that lawmakers from the opposition and the opposition are fighting each other on this issue. I asked Hyunju Nuna, "What do you think, sister? Does North Korea really want to do it?" No one knows what they think. Even with the same Communist Party, North Korea is different from China and Vietnam. If those countries are a one-party dictatorship, North Korea is a one-man dictatorship. If anyone wants to threaten their position, it is a purge. In fact, there are not one or two people who have lost their necks while promoting economic cooperation. From the point of view of a country or a company, It is just absurd that the person in charge who was talking about until yesterday was shot to death in one day. Due to the Rajan Hassan project, the infrastructure in Hamgyong province where the railroad is connected is not even maintained, and the infrastructure is so bad. Until the end of the 1990s, it was maintained at least, but now everything has to be rebuilt. Except for Pyongyang and its surrounding areas, the situation is not as good as in the past. This is the reality of self-reliance that the leader comrades so desperately called out. It is surprising that such a country exists in the 21st century. Hyunju Nuna said calmly. In order for the business to proceed properly, China will have to provide a guarantee. North Korea doesn't look at the US, but it looks at China. China's influence in North Korea is absolute. North Korea is virtually dependent on China for food and energy. If China cuts off supply right away, the death toll and death from starvation will appear one after another. That's why the US also pushes China to do better whenever North Korea provokes. However, it is difficult for China to directly invest in this project. In the first place, it is a project that is being pursued in partnership with Russia to contain Chinese capital. It is a complex of interests intertwined in many ways. How would you like to untie a twisted knot? Hyunju's older sister said. After the closing ceremony, President Ha Chong-min will meet with President Vysotsky and President Zhang Pinghua to hold a trilateral summit, so we have to wait and see. When I returned to work, I received a call from OTK Games President Shigeru Ichikawa. It seems that the Chinese side will resume the version for online games. That's fortunate. With a population of 1.5 billion, China is the world's largest gaming market. Moreover, its size is growing by more than 10% annually. The reason games are so popular in emerging markets is that they can be played for a long time at a low price. If you have a lot of money, you can enjoy various leisure activities. Camping, travel, surfing, sports, drive, and so on. Without money, the things you can do are limited. Among them, the most comfortable and enjoyable leisure and hobby is games. Online games are available for about $30 a month, and there are plenty of free games. It's cheap and fun, so it's a problem to get addicted. If your hobby is golf or surfing, the number of times is limited because of money, time, and physical strength, but there are no games like that. Anyway, the landscape of the game industry has changed rapidly in the last 10 years. With the advent of smartphones, mobile games created a smash hit, and PC games were transformed into higher-spec games. As communication networks developed further, even cloud-based games appeared. If you run a game in the cloud, you can play the game even if you don't have a high-end device, but only a display and an input device. It is still mainly casual games with simple graphics and controls due to technical problems, but it will be expanded to online RPGs soon. Cloud is also closely related to Vrmorpg. It is virtually impossible to store and process the huge amount of data required to implement virtual reality on a personal computer. Therefore, a significant part of the game operation has to be processed in the cloud. That's why Ichikawa said we needed our own data center. ARCAD is almost done with the design. It is the world's largest single data center. To attract this, the United States, Ireland, Sweden, Finland, and Norway announced various support measures and jumped into the bid. I am struggling to select a data center area, and Take-You told me. I am going to LA this weekend. Huh. Why are you there? You said it before. I'm going to see StormCon. Oh right. Founded in the early 1990s, Ice Storm has grown into the largest game company in the United States by making many famous games a box office hit and creating the first esports genre. The company hosts the annual Ice Storm convention. The event is called StormCon for short. At this event, new games and patches to be announced next year will be unveiled along with esports competitions using their games. It is an event for fans and at the same time a kind of management announcement. It is the world's largest event among individual game companies, not game shows. You need to buy a ticket to attend here. Tickets cost a whopping $199 but sold out. Take-You crossed his arms and said, There were only two things I wanted to do when I made a lot of money. One was to meet Ichikawa Shigeru Ong, and the other was to go to StormCon. This is similar to what I wanted to go to the Berkshire Cashier shareholders meeting in Edens, right? Ice Storm once reigned as the strongest MMORPG, but that is now a thing of the past. It is currently losing popularity even in North America. There are many reasons, but the main reason is the emergence of a strong competitor. Lost Fantasy Online, created by OTK Games, was the biggest box office hit in North America ever. It is rare for an MMORPG made by a Japanese game company to be successful in the Western world. Ice Storm's share price has fallen nearly 20% since Lost Fantasy Online went into service in North America. Still, even if the rich go bankrupt, 3 generations go on, Ice Storm has succeeded in several games so far. And the genres are also diverse, including action, strategy simulation, RPG, FPS and CCG. As it has a lot of IP, there is a lot of possibility that it will be revived as a new game. Aren't you always the best in Lost Fantasy? At my words, Take-You wiggled his fingers. Even so, how do people live on only rice? Sometimes I have to eat side dishes too. Isn't diversity important to anything? That's right. That's why a lot of games are still pouring in. And you know, my second favorite game after Lost Fantasy is Mephisto. We played Mephisto 2 together when we were in middle school. I nodded. That was fun. It was a time when we studied and played games all night long. It was a time when there was no shutdown system, so both of them didn't sleep for a few days and just focused on games. Take-You's bus was safe and comfortable. Thanks to this, I was able to level up easily and pick up items. Suddenly it reminds me of the past. A good game is a beautiful memory of childhood. We laughed as we recalled the past together, but Take-You suddenly shouted in an angry voice. By the way, Mephisto 4 that came out last year was a complete rip-off. I haven't tried it, but I've heard a lot about it. The graphics were messy, the controls were complicated, the campaign was bad. There was not enough entertainment other than combat, and the balance between races was messed up. Although some users used the macro program, the management didn't impose any sanctions. Above all, the point where Take-You was most angry was the destruction of settings. Mephisto 4 completely destroyed the worldview that had been steadily built up in the 3 series. Most fans treated the 4 as non-existent. It was truly a total mess. I wonder if Ice Storm also felt the problem awakened, but after that it was continuously patched and fixed. It was after all the users had already left. Still, thanks to the name Ice Storm, it looks like it's done a good job, but if it had been made by another developer it would have been ruined. There is talk of announcing a 5 at this StormCon. I completely overhauled it and rebooted. Because of that, Mephisto fans are tearing and rioting now. Hopefully, a masterpiece following the second may be born. Expectations were oozing from the conversation. Actually, unlike me who worked 20,000 hard, Take-You did all the Mephisto series. I even did the 4th called The Stumbling Block. Take-You put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Let's go together." I want to, but now that I'm back in Korea, I have a lot of work to do. If both are absent, who will protect the company? Take-You said it was a pity. Then I'll take you team leader Jong Ki-hong. This time we should focus on the education of the game a little more. Do that. Annika and Hana-san decided to go together. They must both be very interested in StormCon. Maybe he's more interested in you? However, one of the harem members was missing the name. You don't care about Min Ha-young? I don't want to go. Because he played Mephisto too. Then why don't you take me? Take-You said it was natural. You don't know. Have to finish. I cried and hung up to take her, but I refused like a knife. A promise to the reader comes first. Where does an artist who hasn't finished the deadline go to play? No, can't we play with something? Take-You headed to Los Angeles in a private plane with team leader Jong Ki-hong and Hana-young and Annika. Annika said happily, "I'm going to StormCon this year too." A Norwegian princess and ambassador for Norwegian games, she was invited to attend various game shows. She says that she's never attended Storm Kern either twice. Taekyu looked at young Hannah and asked, "You look tired, are you okay?" The two answered with a strong voice, "Ah yes. Does not matter." She pretended to be okay, but in reality she was on the verge of collapse. "I barely finished Lost Fantasy, but this time Mephistorani. I spent several nights studying how complex the worldview was. No matter how many times I looked at it, there were a couple of things I couldn't understand." After thinking about the problem alone for several days, she carefully asked Taekyu, "According to the setting, only the Soul Stone can seal Mephisto, right?" "Right. By the way, in 4 it is said that you have to gather and strengthen the scattered soul stones to make Philosophus stones. So, were there multiple soul stones from the beginning? And I said that soul stones were made in the demon realm. So, is it a lie to deceive users when Lactium said that soul stones made in heaven were corrupted and flowed into the demon realm?" Taekyu answered the question simply. "It's just a setup." Thousands of people gathered at the event site where StormCon was held. Despite the expensive entrance fee, they did not discriminate between men and women, and some of them cosplayed characters from the game. Elves with outstretched legs and belly exposed and bows in their hands, paladins with shields and swords and chain armor that would have been used in medieval times, wizards in robes, dwarves with beard-covered faces and battle axes, all muscular oak and so on. Since he is a Westerner, he really looked like he had just popped out of a fantasy game. Team leader Zhang Qihong could not keep his mouth shut due to the tremendous heat. "It's amazing. I thought this kind of thing only existed in Japan," Taeyong said with a smirk. The greatest virtue among virtues is virtue." StormCon was held at the Anaheim Convention Center near Los Angeles. Thousands of people flocked to the gigantic convention hall to buy tickets. The venue was crowded with fans, industry officials, and reporters. Various events were broadcast on the internet through their website, and those who purchased a $49 virtual ticket could watch the event without going to the site. When purchasing a virtual ticket, skins that can be used in various games are given as gifts, so hundreds of thousands of people have purchased and watched them on their computers or smartphones. Limited edition products that can only be purchased at StormCon were sold inside the event hall, and paintings and videos produced by experts and amateurs were also actively displayed and sold, as well as secondary creations such as doujinshi and indie games. In the cosplay contest, various prizes were given to participants and winners, and the esports competition was held separately between professional teams as well as amateur teams. It was not just a game show, it was like a festival with the theme of the Ice Storm game. This is possible because of the content capabilities that Ice Storm has accumulated for nearly 20 years. The event was attended by people from all over the world. Nationality, race, or age did not matter to love the game. Taekyu Oh, Qihong Zhang, Annika, and Hannah Young watched the event leisurely. Team leader Zhang Qihong looked around with amazement at the appearance that was different from the game shows he had seen in Korea and Japan. "I've heard of Storm Kern, but I didn't expect it to be this much," he said. "Nice to come." Taekyu asked, "Did the team leader also play a lot of Ice Storm games?" To that question, team leader Zhang Qihong proudly answered, "Of course. Jinhu when I was in college. No, I went to a PC room with the CEO and played spacecraftbattle.net a lot. There were also team competitions with other departments or other schools. I'm going to tell you now, but I've been famous for Storm Kug since I was in high school. At one time my nickname was Junggi Kong." Unlike Annika, who smirked, young Hannah had an awkward smile. "What? Is this funny? Perhaps the point of laughter is that the red is changed to the bean? Why?" Taekyu sighed in admiration. 5. "Did you play as Kurg? It wouldn't have been easy. Hey, once a Kurg, forever a Kurg. Shall we play later? Good. I'll have to do a Mugil once in a while. Shall we hold an office worker game contest? I think it would be fun to do not only with us, but also with the 5 major groups such as Seosong Group and CL Group. It goes through an in-house league and the winners face off." Both of them quickly nodded their heads. "I think that's a good idea. But his mind was complicated. What is spacecraft? Should I study this too? Taekyu and Yong Ki-hong were wearing t-shirts with the Mephisto logo on them. It was the perfect camouflage that could not be imagined as coming from a rival parent company. Some Mephisto fans were happy to talk to me. Hello guys. Where are you from? Team leader Jong Ki-hong answered. We are from Korea. Wow. From Korea to here? We are from Brooklyn. It's not as far as Korea, but Brooklyn is not too far away. From the East End to the West End. The man who identified himself as Stormbringer, a game nickname, said that he took a vacation to work with his friends who enjoy Mephisto and flew by plane. There is only one reason to participate in StormCon while spending so much time and money. Because we love Mephisto. I love Ice Storm who made Mephisto. There are many famous games such as Spacecraft, Overclock and Hearth Metal, but Mephisto is the best. I've been playing Mephisto with these guys for a very long time. The other people also got together and talked about Mephisto. The reason why so many Mephisto fans gathered compared to last year's StormCon is because of the anticipation for the new work to be announced this time. This is not for nothing, and Ice Storm continued to leak information several months before StormCon. It's a new project that will surprise everyone. How many years have you been waiting? It's okay not to jump over too, so I'd be happy if it wasn't a failure like 4. It seems that everyone's anticipation for Mephisto 5 has risen to a peak. Being able to make friends like this even with people you meet for the first time is the charm of the game. Anyone could be friends just because they played the same game. Games can overcome the limitations of time and space, and can realize the impossible in reality. Therefore, the potential for future growth is limitless. In the case of OTK games, starting with a capital of only 1 billion yen, it is now evaluated to be worth more than 1 trillion yen. This is possible because gaming is an industry that literally creates something out of nothing. In-game characters or items are sometimes traded for tens of millions of won or hundreds of millions of won. In the past, a game company made it possible to choose a medium-sized car and a dragon's sword, game item, as a giveaway event, but the winner chose the dragon's sword. Those who don't know much about the game might wonder what the hell this is, but it was a very wise choice. Because the car's price goes down due to depreciation, but the price of the dragon's sword keeps going up. Team leader Jong Ki-hong looked at Taekyu with respect. Games have the power to unite people around the world. Deputy CEO who recognized this possibility and invested in OTK games in advance. You are? It was a misunderstanding. It was just an investment because I liked Lost Fantasy. Who would have thought that the game market would grow so much after that? At StormCon you can experience a variety of games. Unlike Annika and Yong Ji-hong who play well. On their own, it was a little awkward for Hannah Young because it was their first time. For her, Taekyu eagerly explained her game worldview and controls. Seeing this, Hannah Young smiled involuntarily. She was born with her outstanding beauty and wealth from her days. She was accustomed to being noticed wherever she went, and she could have what she wanted by reaching out her hand without much effort. Because of that, I even felt envious of Taekyu when he showed his passion for something. A man who focuses on one thing is cool. Among the people she met, Taekyu was a little different. His greatest strength is not money or ability. That's a warm heart. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have hired a Helto Quack operator for Haeyoung Uni. Young Hannah was surprised to hear this. Taekyu may have done it as a favor, but it won't be the case for the accepting party. After that, I could feel that Min Ha-young's attitude toward Taekyu had changed subtly. Until then, if you were content with being friends, now you feel like you are appealing more actively. Of course, the party didn't seem to notice at all. This time there's no Haeyoung Uni, so it's a good opportunity. The problem is the Norwegian princess. Why did you come here without studying? When asked to go to StormCon, Annika dropped the lecture and joined. Taekyu was aware of that fact, but he didn't take it seriously. I can't make funk for cereals, can I skip classes? What kind of logic is this? When asked about this, Taekyu said, A serialization is a promise to the reader, but a class is a promise to yourself. You must keep your promises to readers, but you can break any promises you make with yourself. I also couldn't understand what the logic was. In any case, Anki is as lively and youthful as her tomboy sister, and is so knowledgeable about the game that she serves as a game ambassador in Norway. In a way, he is a more important figure than Min Ha-young. Besides, when she came here, she had prepared her thoroughly. It's just cosplay. Many people are already cosplaying both inside and outside the venue. Today is not even an official event day, but it was fun wearing the costumes that each of us had prepared for us, posing and taking pictures. It was one of the other charms of Stormkin to enjoy doing what they wanted to do without worrying about the gaze of others. At the same time, Westerners wearing cosplay were gathering nearby. Is it fun to do something like that? With that in mind, Anki said as she grabbed her wrist. Let's do it together, sister. What? Cosplay? Hearing those words, both of them were perplexed. Yes. I don't even have clothes. Then Annika said with a smile. I made one for my sister too. Were you thinking of this from the beginning? Come on, wait a minute. I couldn't resist Annika's hand, who was encouraging me with a smile, but fortunately Taekyu stepped in and dried it. You can't force someone who doesn't want to do it. Cosplay is something you have to do from the heart. At that, Annika gave a sullen expression on her face. She said, I have been preparing a female Mephisto costume for a few months before asking a company that supplies traditional clothing to European royal families to give one to her older sister. Both of them got even more confused. Why do you ask for such a thing from a company that makes European royal clothes? King shook his head. Of course, the female Mephisto is also my favorite character in Mephisto, and I think it would look great if Hannah wore it, but that doesn't mean it can't be. At those words, both of them flinched. What's your favorite character? Anku nodded her head. Then it's a waste of having already prepared, so I'll try on this outfit as well. The size is a little off, but I think we should add a little more pad. At that moment, Hannah Young cried out without knowing it. I will. Taekyu asked with a surprised expression. Suddenly. Somehow, after hearing about it, I wanted to do it too. I have always been interested in cosplay. Really? That's right. At those words, Annika's expression brightened in an instant. Then let's go get changed, sister. The sheep Hannah, who was suddenly led by her Annika's hand and made her cosplay, couldn't contain her absurdity. She didn't even know how and in what order she wore her clothes. Then Anku, who quickly changed her clothes, stood by her side to help. No, rather than helping her, she changed her clothes as if she was playing with a doll. Come on, wait. Without hesitation, she was all dressed, and then the makeup began. It's right there, sister. You cannot move. Annika put makeup on her face and touched her hair with her familiar gestures. It's not something she's done once or twice. Her Annika's outfit is her brightly colored light armor and white cloth angel. To be exact, Raphael, one of the 4 great angels in Mephisto. Read more at wuxiax.com. And one sheep was astonished to see her own reflection in her mirror. Black glossy leggings clinging to her body, a flamboyant outfit with a tight-fitting corset and black feathers, horned circlets and dark makeup. She was a glamorous and intense image, despite her lack of exposure. Why are you wearing this kind of clothes? Leaving behind good luxury clothes. Get out of here. Huh. Without a moment to prepare her heart, she was dragged into the venue by Annika's hands. Taekyu and Young Ki-hong were waiting outside. How are you, brother? It suits you, right? She wanted to run away to the locker room again right away, but the reason she couldn't is because Taekyu was staring at him with a blank expression on his face. This is the first time that we have met so many times and received such intense gaze. Okay. If you think about it, it's like a fashion show. In fact, there are many clothes that are more bizarre than the cosplay costumes among the clothes that appear in the fashion show. Models wear such clothes well and stand on stage. So, considering that cosplay is also part of a fashion show, wouldn't it be okay? Asterisk, she said, turning the happy circuit for a moment, but to no avail. She was shy. She looked like she was going to die of shame. The only good thing is that her makeup is so thick that no one will know who she is. Although she usually has a lot of interest in fashion and is used to getting people's attention, she doesn't want to be noticed in a place like this, because she's at a gathering or a party. Unlike Inku, who was happy and showed off her outfit, one sheep bowed her head. But at some point people gathered like a cloud. Look over there. Wow. The fourth angel Rachel and the feminine Mephisto. And Ki, like her lively girl, and a sheep who shows off her slender and mature charm. The harmony of angels and demons west and east was enough to attract people's attention. The harmony of angels and demons west and east was enough to attract people's attention. Westerners exclaimed in surprise. 5. By God! Such quality! How the hell did you make those clothes? Wow! I thought Americans would not lose as much as Ice Storm cosplay. Don't forget that there are always Asians who are better than us. That was true. Likewise, a Western woman wearing a feminine Mephisto cosplay shook her head with a bitter smile at her. I'm upset, but I have to admit this. Hearing these words, young Hannah screamed inwardly. Oh no. Don't admit this. The cosplay of Annika and Hannah Young was hugely popular. People flocked to take pictures and an official StormCon reporter offered an interview. Recruitment proposals from famous cosplay teams continued. Annika was excited and suggested that she try on another outfit, but young Hannah firmly shook her head. It was a short time, but it felt as if he had gone through all the humiliation he would have suffered in his life. The two went to change clothes again and Taekyu muttered with his arms crossed. OTK Games should also hold such an event soon. Ice Storm is the only game company in the world that can attract people like this while selling tickets for a fee. But wouldn't it be possible with OTK Games? Lost Fantasy fans around the world are increasing. In particular, the performance in the North American market, which was almost barren, is encouraging, as it confirmed that the Lost Fantasy series is a worldwide content. It was a positive signal for the Vermork currently under development. Everyone is only thinking about the sales and operating profit of OTK Games, but the vice president is planning a new event for gamers. Was the reason you came here to benchmark your competitors' events? Team leader Zhang Qihong exclaimed with admiration. You didn't just come to play. It was a misunderstanding. I was just here to play. After a while, Annika and Hannah Young returned back to their original clothes. Taekyu raised his thumb towards the two of them. Well done. It went very well. Young Hana smiled at Taekyu's praise. Thank you. Still, getting compliments made me feel better. Young Hannah, who had barely recovered her mentality, asked Taekyu. Why is Ice Storm so loved by gamers? To that question, Taekyu simply answered. I am faithful to the basics. Basic. The basics of a game company is to make good games. It was too obvious, but it was a story that penetrated the core. Usually, game companies are busy releasing similar games by copying them appropriately after a certain game is released. And if most of them succeed, they are desperate to get some money out of the billing somehow. Maple Tales and Dungeon and Magicians are representative examples. On the other hand, Ice Storm's game had original creativity. In particular, it is famous for its impeccable worldview. It was enough to create the illusion of being in another world while playing the game. User-friendly interface and rich content are also great advantages. Because of this, every released game created a sensation in the game market, and it was called a God developer among gamers, and was also selected as the game developer most wanted to enter. Lately, it has been showing signs of shaking due to several problems. Everyone had no doubts that he would soon return to the center and release a game that would thrill fans all over the world. This trust is the greatest value that Ice Storm has built up over the years. I see. So, despite the fact that Mephisto 4 is a rare masterpiece, everyone is looking forward to it like this. I think Ice Storm will make a better game by overcoming mistakes. After many events, finally the highlight of the event. New game announcement time has begun. Everyone already knows that the game is a Mephisto series. Again, the Mephisto logo appeared on the screen, and Mephisto's general designer Steve Wong appeared. A Taiwanese American with a good-natured look, he was wearing jeans and a t-shirt with the Mephisto logo on it. King Steve raised his hands and greeted them loudly. Hello, StormCon. Guys, we love Mephisto. We are proud that millions of players around the world have come together to defeat the devil. Fans responded with cheers to the words. So far it's been good, however, what followed was completely different from what was expected. Today's world is interconnected through mobile devices. The best platform for playing Mephisto's new game is a mobile device. What could be more fun than gathering family and friends to defeat the devil? Let's see the cinematic first. Then came a cinematic video that filled the screen. Annika was puzzled and asked Taekyu. What happened, brother? It's not online right now but mobile, right? Taeyong didn't say anything. It felt as if I had been hit hard in the back of the head with a hammer. Moments later, when the cinematic was over, Steve Wong shouted. The new mobile game Mephisto Infinity. I am so looking forward to it. It's a very alone look. Taekyu denied reality. No. This can't be real, there will definitely be a twist. Online announcements after mobile announcements. Far from being a reversal, the subsequent remarks were even more shocking. This game was produced by EasyNet, a Chinese game company. Without their passion and dedication, Mephisto Infinity would never have been possible. How are you guys? Are you surprised? I was really surprised. The back of the head that was just hit is still tingling, but I feel like I've been hit again. Usually when a new game is released, it is normal when there is a burst of cheers. But everyone was so surprised that they didn't say anything. I know what you guys are thinking. Would you like to see a play video? No, I don't want to see that. When no one responded, he panicked and turned on a gameplay video. Everyone in the presentation room murmured instead of concentrating on the video. No, what is that? It should be Mephisto 5. What is Infinity? Is that Mephisto? It's just a mass-produced mobile game. Did you subcontract it to a Chinese game company? So what does Ice Storm do? I'm also Chinese, but why leave this to EasyNet? If you're only lending your name, isn't this just a Chinese game? Do you think I came all the way from Germany to see this? Both of them asked as if they did not understand. Hey, is this such a big deal? Such a big deal. Taekyu screamed in anger. Are these kids kidding? Where did Mephisto 5 go? I couldn't figure out why this was happening. Unlike OTK games, which depended on only one IP called Lost Fantasy, Ice Storm succeeded in several games besides Mephisto. In addition, it created a huge box office hit in the North American and Chinese markets as well as the world. However, despite its worldwide popularity, Ice Storm's sales volume is not very large. Last year's sales were $2.3 billion. And the operating profit margin was $690 million, which is 30%. If it is large, it is a large amount, but for a global game company it is shabby. The reason was mainly because the game was sold as a package or a flat rate. The development of technology has greatly increased the cost of game development. In the case of a masterpiece MMORPG, the development period has been increased several times, and the development cost has also increased significantly. In a nutshell, there is no significant change in sales, only cost increases. On the other hand, mobile development is less difficult and costs less. However, sales are much higher than online. So Shigeru Ichikawa also produced Lost Fantasy Mobile first, and then developed online again with the profits from that. As for human psychology, a 100,000 won package game seems too expensive, and even if the monthly fee is increased by only $10, the game company swears by it that the game company has risen, but various items and random boxes sold in mobile games are easily erased. If you pay that way because your clothes get wet in the drizzle, it is an instant to go over hundreds of thousands of won or millions of won. The development cost is also low, but the operating profit margin of mobile games is often over 50% because of the induction of billing in all kinds of ways. In extreme cases, it has exceeded 90%. Asterisk, are you planning on selling random boxes through mobile games and pulling out money after all? In a way, Ice Storm is going to do the same thing that other game companies have done so far, and this is not necessarily a bad thing. Anyway, game companies are companies, and the purpose of the company is to make a profit. Considering this, it is understandable why they outsourced the game to a Chinese game company. Ice Storm has mainly made PC online games, so there is a shortage of mobile game production personnel. In order to save development cost and time, it is reasonable to outsource it. If you are already determined to make money, China is a market you cannot miss. However, China is currently closed. If you entrust the production to a Chinese game company, it will be relatively easy to break through this plate. To be honest, Mephisto Infinity isn't a bad game. The graphics and interface didn't look much different from other mobile action RPGs. If it had been a different game, I would have thought it was a pretty good game. The problem is that this is a Mephisto series. Those gathered here are loyal fans from all over the world who have spent their time and money in anticipation of Mephisto 5. What they want is a PC online game, not a mobile game made to earn moderately. I wanted a new story that would erase the black history of 4, which was a failure, and make my heart race again. But out of the blue, mass-produced mobile games were introduced. It wasn't even made by Ice Storm himself, but it was made by subcontracting to a Chinese game company. This is tantamount to betraying the expectations of many fans. To use an analogy, it said that it was a restaurant, so I waited for a long time to sit at the table, and then I poured water on the cup noodles, right? New characters, new skills, new stories, and more. We have prepared a playable demo version in Hall E, so you can enjoy it after the presentation. There was still no reaction, and Wang Steve gave him an indifferent expression. A few more explanations followed by a question and answer session. The American man, who appeared to be in his 30s, asked into the microphone, "I'm really curious, but do you have any plans to release it on PC? Is it really the end of that mobile game?" Steve Wang just cut it off. "As announced, only mobile, that is Andromeda and NAS. There are currently no plans for a PC release." At those words, boos erupted everywhere. Boo! Wow! Steve Wang jokingly tried to change the mood somehow. "You don't even have a phone?" The other presenter sitting next to them quickly chimed in. "Yes, you all have phones. Or a tablet." With these remarks, the atmosphere of understanding shifted to an irreversible situation. Take You, unable to bear it any longer, told team leader Zhang Qihong, "Go out and tell me what I mean. Read more at wuxiax.com. Yes. Team leader Zhang Qihong, who stood in front of the microphone as if pushing his back, coughed in vain. "Wow. Oh, hello. My name is Qihong Yong, the former head of the PR team at OTK Company." Everyone, including Steve Wang, was shocked by that statement. A few people around recognized the face of team leader Zhang Qihong. I think I saw him on TV. It looks like the guy who came out when the OTK Company announced it." Are you really from OTK Company? Why are you here?" Steve Wang. "Do you have anything to say?" Team leader Zhang Qihong said while holding the microphone. "It's not that I have anything to say, but the vice president of OTK Company asked me to give you a message." Everyone screamed in surprise. "You're the deputy representative of OTK Company. Did you watch StormCan at home? Aren't you here by any chance?" Maybe. Who doesn't know who the OTK Company vice president is for a gamer? He invested in Shigeru Ichikawa to establish OTK Games, and defended the Korean game industry against the Korean Ministry of Gender Equality and Family. At the time, the video of the discussion with the Ministry of Leisure was translated into several languages and watched by gamers around the world. In addition, it supported the development of Vermorks, which cost more than $10 billion, and established an OTK award. Due to this series of events, the vice president of OTK company was regarded as a true historical figure in the game world. A myth. Team leader Zhang Qihong was surprised to see the message delivered on his smartphone. Asterisk, are you really reading this? Looking back, Taekyu nodded his head as if to read it quickly. Team leader Zhang Qihong closed his eyes tightly and did as he was told. I'm going to take over Ice Storm right now and cut all the people who said we should develop it and make Mephisto 5. You said. A long silence passed for a while. Then there was a loud cheer that seemed to leave the presentation hall. Wow. Hey everyone. Calm down. The organizers tried to rectify the unexpected situation, but people all raised their hands and shouted. OTK. OTK. Among the companies OTK company has invested in, the company with the highest valuation is Keras, followed by Faceit and OTK Games. Although the number one position was unwavering, there was a high prospect that the second and third positions would change within a few years. This is because OTK Games is growing rapidly. Currently, Lost Fantasy Online ranks first or second in the number of concurrent users in each country where it serves. There are many countries to be launched in the future, and as long as the service is launched in China after receiving a license, sales will more than double than it is now. With Lost Fantasy M and Lost Fantasy Online, the sales and net profit soared, and the cash that came in gradually piled up in the warehouse. Shigeru Ichikawa made several classic games in addition to Lost Fantasy during his time at the Pentagon. Afterwards, Pentagon merged with Linux to become Linux Pentagon, and he took out the development team and established OTK Games due to a disagreement with the management. Fortunately, it became independent with the right to use the Lost Fantasy IP, but instead transferred all copyrights of previously developed games to Linux Pentagon. Another problem is that the right to use the Lost Fantasy IP is also in Linux Pentagon. In other words, the two companies are using the same IP. Again, as Lost Fantasy M and Online hit the jackpot, Linux Pentagon quickly released several games with the Lost Fantasy name. The quality of the game was poor, and it was just a gacha game that was trying to get money by billing somehow. However, the service was discontinued after operating for about a year. Lost Fantasy fans, Ichikawa Shigeru doesn't even treat it as a series at all. But people who don't know this have misunderstood that OTK Games released a poor game to make money. To solve this problem, OTK Games was considering the direction of acquiring Linux Pentagon. This is because, in this way, it is possible to recover the IP of the games produced in the past as well as Lost Fantasy. When they announced their intention to take over, Linux Pentagon management and shareholders demanded that the company be converted into OTK Games shares through a merger, instead of selling the company. As OTK Games continues to grow, I am thinking of adding a spoon somehow. Of course, there's no reason to do that. Shigeru Ichikawa beckoned to the developers he worked with during the Linux Pentagon days, and the main developers resigned and joined OTK Games. Money is money, but it's because they shared the vision of making a Vermork. As the core development manpower left, the stock price of Linux Pentagon continued to decline. Although it is still a traditional powerhouse in the console game field, the prevailing opinion is that it is difficult to grow anymore. Just as Shigeru Ichikawa was being kicked out, who would have thought that their positions would be reversed when they left the company? Ellie said in a strange way. He said, "Taekyu is really amazing. How did he know the possibilities and invest before he even started the company?" It's just because I'm a Shigeru Ong fan. I didn't know it would turn out so well. Well, I had a special eye for games. Since I was little, I didn't study and only played games. Thanks to you, it was so successful. Right. It is now a thing of the past that only those who study well can succeed. The development of the internet has created a variety of jobs, and many jobs related to games have also been created. If you play the game very well, you can become a pro gamer, and if you have fun, you can become a Twitch streamer or a tuber. And if you have a lot of money, you might be able to buy the whole game company. I looked up articles about StormCan. Game sites were almost covered with the story of StormCon. In particular, there was a lot of talk about Mephisto 5. Looking at the photos from the event, it looks very interesting. Did you think I'd go with you too? Thinking like that, a picture on the best column caught my eye. I was startled and told Ellie. Look at this picture. In the photo there were two women who were cosplaying as angels and demons. None other than Annika and Hannah Young. This is Mr. Hannah, right? Ellie said with a surprised expression. Princess Annika, I expected it, but I didn't know that Hannah-san would do it. It's a face that looks like it's been pushed back. The image of her standing side by side with the beauties of the East and the West was nothing more than a pictorial in itself. Otakyo suddenly starts to envy me. It looks kind of fun. Shall I try cosplaying too? Suddenly, Ellie wrinkled her eyes. It's Halloween after a while. Is there a character you think would suit me well? I said carefully. Well, actually, I have one thing in mind. Really? Is it Jinho's favorite character? Yes. What is it? Then I'll do it. At those words, my eyes opened spontaneously. Really? I promised. Ellie gently rolled her eyes. It can't be too naughty. He's not a naughty character at all. Then I promise. You can't change your words later. Did you forget that I was a lawyer? Keep your promises. Her envy vanished in an instant. Instead, she was filled with anticipation. Suddenly, the highlight of StormCon, the announcement of a new work has begun. She was watching in real time with Ellie when something unexpected happened. Ellie looked at me and asked, "Why is everyone reacting like that? Why are you booing?" I said confused, "Hey, that's weird. Why did mobile suddenly pop up?" But there was something else that was really unexpected. Ellie looked at me again and asked, "What? Did Taikyu just announce that he would take over Ice Storm?" What is this madman doing when he goes out to play? The cell phone rang right away. The first person to call was Hyunju Nuna. Has this been discussed in advance? No. Then the sister shouted in an angry voice. Oh, Taikyu. Next, OTK Games President Shigeru Ichikawa contacted me. Did the CEO think about taking over Ice Storm? No. I was surprised to see it too. Seeing this question, it seems that he, too, was unimaginable. He said urgently, "Now the whole game world is turned upside down." The announcement of Stormcon's new game was broadcast live around the world via the internet, and tens of thousands of people were watching. When the mobile game Mephisto Infinity was announced instead of the expected PC online game Mephisto 5, the internet went into chaos. You guys don't have a phone? No nymph phone? Oh. I'm going crazy TD, why are they like that, Ice Storm? This isn't it. This isn't it. Hey, so you're not going to do Mephisto M? Huh. I will not. I have a phone but I don't. This isn't an Ice Storm game, it's just a Chinese game, shouldn't it? Is not it? You're only borrowing IP and wanting to collect royalties. Well. But is that the whole thing? A game originally intended for adults was made for kids? Everyone was angry and poured out swear words in each language, but a reversal occurred. Suddenly, OTK Company announced that it would take over Ice Storm and release Mephisto 5. Ooh, is this real? Oh, Vice President. Crazy, haha, after all, I have a lot of money, so such a thing is possible. Take over and cut them all off. The Vice President will do everything for you. There's hope. Just light. King Emperor God. Gamers are happy to have you. As the presentation venue went uproar, the StormCon organizers quickly stopped broadcasting and played the Mephisto Infinity cinematic video again. However, the aftermath of the so-called Mephisto Infinity disaster spread all over the place. Newspapers around the world poured out breaking news. OTK Company reveals its intention to acquire Ice Storm at StormCon. The number of wins of the Vice President following OTK Games. OTK Company following Japanese game companies. Is it also paying attention to American game companies? Ice Storm side expressed a strong displeasure. Announcement of Mephisto Infinity, which caused a backlash from fans. What was the problem? Those who did not play the game responded that they did not know what the problem was. What's wrong with Ice Storm to announce a game that's Infinity or something? Is it such a big deal to announce a mobile game? Are you mad at me for not giving you the game you want? If you don't like it, you can't do it, right? However, the position of gamers was completely different. They vomited enthusiasm on various sites and online games. You're going to throw away the core users and make money with the light users. This is an act of ignoring existing fans. I told you that the Fourth Degree, which is a rare masterpiece, is an Ice Storm game. If that's the case, let's say it's a mobile game from the beginning. At least you kept your promise to make a surprise announcement. In response, Ice Storm's side was consistent with the attitude that there was no problem, deleted tens of thousands of negative comments on the video, and requested the media to take down the relevant article. This response further fueled the already negative public opinion. In this situation, the developer of Ice Storm made an internal disclosure. Originally, Ice Storm was developing Mephisto 5, but the business team took issue with the high development cost and the box office failure of 4 and forced it to move to mobile. In fact, as you can see from the case of Shigeru Ichikawa, this is not uncommon. But there was something more complicated here. Ice Storm merged with Actis, and the official name of the listed company is Actis Ice Storm Entertainment. Even after the merger, the management of Actis and Ice Storm was separated, and development was carried out separately. The problem is that after the merger with Actis, the business team got stronger, and as a result, the development team's position was greatly narrowed. Previously, if we had focused on making good games rather than sales and operating profit, it is now impossible to do so. In response, Ice Storm held a press conference to announce its position. Koseo Logic Lenga did not deny the disclosure, but rather declared that the company's future development strategy would be focused on mobile. Read more at wuxiax.com. Recently, many gamers have shifted their play from PC to mobile. Our developers are developing mobile games across all IPs, and some of them are outsourced, just like Mephisto Infinity. As soon as Take-Two arrived in Korea, he immediately came to the company. Then he handed me a shopping bag with the Ice Storm logo on it. It's a gift. This is a limited edition mug sold exclusively at StormCon. I bought it as a couple mug with a male Mephisto and a female Mephisto drawn on it, so it will be even more delicious to drink coffee with Ellie in this in the future. I waited in line for 30 minutes to buy this, so thank you. Again, useless otaku stuff has increased. Why did you buy another mug with one truck at home? Anyway, it's not the limited edition mugs that matter now. You idiot, why do you go to other people's banquets and sprinkle shit on them? Taeyong narrowed his eyes. What are you talking about? The shit they put on us. What does Mephisto Infinity mean? Did you not see the reaction of the fans there? That's right, it's hard to argue with. Despite dropping the bomb of mergers and acquisitions at other companies' new game presentations, the internet was full of compliments. In a poll conducted by a gaming site, more than 80% of the opinion that OTK company should take over Ice Storm. That is proof that Ice Storm feels betrayed by giving up Mephisto 5 and releasing a mobile game. Taeyong said proudly. Buy me an Ice Storm. I was absurd and screamed. I'm not asking you to buy a game. What kind of crazy is asking me to buy a game company? Take-Two countered. You mean it doesn't matter if the Mephisto series of you and I are ruined? No, I don't have that much memory of that game. Come to think of it, I think I worked harder on Latnia. Just because you have money doesn't mean you can buy a business. There are various legal issues, and approval must be obtained from the relevant country. The biggest problem is that, in the case of a listed company, the stock price rises from the moment you decide to acquire it. In that case, it would be unreasonable to buy stocks on the stock exchange. The more you buy, the more the price will keep going up. The most realistic way is to ask the major shareholder to buy it in a block deal or sell only Ice Storm by splitting up Actis and Ice Storm. Who's in business right now? Then, let's think. The stock price went up because it was about acquisitions, but if it's normal for the stock price to plummet. Do you know how big Ice Storm is shoveling right now? I stopped at that. Is this what it is? Take-You gave an explanation as if he had been waiting. The reason Ice Storm has been praised by gamers as a new developer until now is because of the craftsmanship that only the best games are released. But instead of developing MMORPGs that cost a lot of money, we changed our strategy to focus on mobile. Now they have declared that they will eat me with mobile games too. That's not to say it's wrong, but then gamers don't have to defend Ice Storm games anymore. The expected Mephisto 5 is also gone, and they said that there are no plans to release large-scale PC online games for a while. So this is a golden opportunity for Lost Fantasy to further increase its market share in North America. It seems so. As I listen, I begin to persuade. In fact, gamers were enthusiastic about Take-You's words of taking over Ice Storm and cutting it down. Could this be a chance for Lost Fantasy Online to benefit? So, this time OTK Games has strengthened its offensive in North America to take revenge for not giving out Mephisto 5 to these guys. No, shouldn't I tell you how big a mistake it is to ignore PC online games? It's not uncommon for gamers to complain when a new game doesn't live up to expectations. Ice Storm thought it would calm down over time, so they worked hard to delete negative comments. 300,000 comments were reduced to 10,000 in one day. The company's actions made the gamers' animosity even greater, so the OTK company's vice president's remarks that he would produce Mephisto 5 after cutting out the people who said that they should acquire Ice Storm and develop Mephisto Infinity received a great response rather than criticism. This has spread not only in the game world but also as an internet meme, thanks to which the popularity of Lost Fantasy soared not only in North America but also worldwide. In fact, the number of concurrent users in the United States has increased by nearly 10% since StormCon. It is the result of a combination of antipathy towards Ice Storm and favorable feelings towards Take-You. Ice Storm, which expressed displeasure over the takeover remarks several times, sent a letter to OTK company requesting an official apology. However, instead of an apology, the deputy representative released the answer to the media saying, "The apology should be made by Ice Storm, who betrayed the fans' expectations." Under the direction of the vice president, OTK Games added new characters and campaigns in North America, and attracted users by holding large-scale promotions and events. You don't have a phone? Huh. You don't have a job anymore. Because I will take over and cut it. From today we will switch to Lost Fantasy. Trust only the vice president and go. Close all other accounts and register Lost Fantasy. In the game industry, hostile M&As, share exchanges and transfers of developers are common occurrences. Not long ago there was a lot of talk about the sale of Rexon. It is not uncommon for an acquisition to end after a short period of time. Therefore, Take-You's remarks can be treated as one of them, but the industry evaluated the possibility of OTK company's acquisition of Ice Storm highly. As the acquisition of listed companies has to be approached strategically, OTK company has no plans to acquire it right away. Then the stock price of Actus Ice Storm Entertainment immediately plummeted. Not only did the increase rise on expectations of a struggle for control, but it also fell more than 10% from before the start of StormCon. Despite denying the acquisition, gamers still strongly supported OTK company's acquisition of Ice Storm. Taijaiyu said, "Actually, there is a more complicated reason behind this. This is a problem with Chinese capital. In the process of selling Ice Storm by the parent company in the past, a private equity fund called Casa provided capital, and the largest shareholder of the fund is Witchant. I think it would be better to be eaten by the OTK company if it is going to be swayed by Chinese capital. Like other industries, mergers and acquisitions are actively taking place in the game industry, and China money stands out the most among them. Mergers and acquisitions are the best way to raise competitiveness in a short period of time. Chinese companies mobilized huge capital to buy game companies from all over the world, including the US, Finland, Sweden, Australia, Japan, and Korea, and have them under their umbrellas. There are quite a few cases where a well-known developer takes over a startup company founded by a well-known developer right away. It's similar to the way we did it. Right. Come to think of it, if we hadn't invested in Shigeru Ichikawa, the Chinese capital might have invested. So, is Lost Fantasy a Chinese game by now? WeChat, a Chinese general internet company, has risen to become the world's largest game company, followed by EasyNet. It is a thing of the past that Chinese games were childish and crude. In the meantime, like automobiles and IT, Chinese companies have grown by leaps and bounds. Now, if you don't say it's a Chinese game, you won't know. The game industry, which had been suffering for a while, has been able to breathe thanks to China. But where there is light, there is also darkness. Now, game companies around the world were looking only at China. It's a speculative problem. Even so, it is a serious problem to have to change everything to suit local Chinese taste. If you go to Rome, you have to follow Roman law, but this is too much. According to TakeU, the game world is full of dissatisfaction with China's tyranny. Well, what industry doesn't? When it comes to acquiring a $10 trillion company, you don't necessarily need 10 trillion won. You can form a fund or consortium, receive an investment from a financial investor, FI, or get a loan using the assets of the acquiring company as collateral. There are a lot of things that will cost you money, but it's not something you can't afford. If OTK company really takes over, it will have another game company after OTK Games. Considering the current sales and market share of OTK Games, there is no risk of getting caught in the anti-monopoly law. Once Surana, the Vermorpg in development, is released, other MMORPGs will be wiped out. But not all games meet the same fate. There are many different genres of games and people have different taste. In that sense, the IP that Ice Storm has is coveted. That's right. OTK companies' market cap and financial power are both greater than WeChat and EasyNet combined. Which company would spend $10 billion on a game? However, this is a pure development cost, and the cost of the data center must be invested separately. For this reason, the game industry chose OTK company as a company that can contain Chinese capital. Of course, the reputation of the vice president played a part in this. As the controversy gradually spread, the Ice Storm developers who had not been able to speak up for a while began to voice their dissatisfaction. It looks like there is a conflict between Actis and Ice Storm, and between the development team and the business team. Some developers left the company, and Cesar Hidalgo, a founding member of Ice Storm, also left the company. Most people don't know, but he's a famous developer that anyone who plays games knows about it. For some reason he came to OTK company and TakeU welcomed him. Welcome to OTK. I am very happy to have met the vice president. He was 190 centimeters tall and weighed over 200 kilos. His face was covered with a red beard, and his cool bald head had a tattoo of an unusual pattern. Is it because his skin is pure white because he doesn't get out of the house? It is an honor for me. I really enjoyed Mephisto with this friend since I was in middle school. Is that right, Jinhu? Cesar Hidalgo's eyes widened at those words. Mephisto is an adult game. Thinking about it, I think it was. Somehow there was a lot of blood. We drank coffee and chatted in a relaxed atmosphere. He talked about why he came out of Ice Storm. We developed games together in the Dankin office, and even when we were struggling to pay for the server, we always took pride in making the best games. But right now the company is only focused on increasing sales and profits. To reduce costs, we are reducing manpower and increasing outsourcing, while also partially paying for items that affect play. The business team doesn't even listen to the development team. So, how is Ice Storm different from Chinese game companies? TakeU nodded his head as if sympathizing with him. Right. That is very wrong. Actually, as soon as I left the company, I got a call from WeChat. He offered to invest. Oh, that's great. But why did you come to me? He said with a grim face. When I heard the reputation of the vice president, I deeply admired it in my heart. If I receive an investment, I would like to receive it from an OTK company rather than a Chinese capital. Taeyong was happy. If that's the reason, you came to me very well. We will let you develop the game you want to make as much as you want. Boo, Deputy Chief. Taekyu grabbed his hand with all his might, and Caesar Hidalgo was so moved that he shed tears. No, what makes a person who looks like he's going to beat a bear? Wow. It is only regrettable that I did not visit the vice president sooner. What do you mean? I'm really glad we're still together. Let's work together to make the best game that won't be defeated by Chinese capital. Anyone who sees it would know that he is a monarch who defected to the enemy commander. For a moment, Taekyu's body seemed to glow. Maybe I'm mistaken? Anyway, Caesar Hidalgo decided to establish a new game company with an investment from OTK Company. Upon this news, some of the developers who remained at Ice Storm also submitted their resignations and decided to transfer. The stock price of Actus Ice Storm Entertainment, which had suffered from bad news, plummeted again, and the co-CEO of Logic Lenga contacted OTK Company and protested fiercely. How could this be? It's against the industry's morals to take away developers in this way. Taeyong said calmly. Did someone who likes morality like that put out Mephisto Infinity in front of the fans? Wait a minute. I will definitely take over Ice Storm and cut you off first. Halloween is approaching as time goes by. Cafes and franchises decorated their interiors in a Halloween style, and businesses also held Halloween events. The game industry also joined the event by adding limited edition Halloween costumes and skins. For Halloween, we decided to invite our acquaintances to a party at our house. The concept of the party was decided as a cosplay based on the opinion of the organizer Taekyu. When Ellie returned home, she expressed anticipation. Are my clothes ready? Yes. Fortunately, it came on time. What? Are you a Lost Fantasy character? Well, not a game character. Ellie rolled her eyes. Is it true that you said it wasn't naughty? Of course. Are you a bunny girl? Grid girl? It's a bit embarrassing, but if Jinhoo wants it, I'll wear it. It looks like something you want to wear. I took out the Halloween costume I had hidden. When Ellie saw the dress, she screamed in surprise. Damn. Why are you so surprised? Hey, how do you do this? Her voice trembled in surprise. What I came up with was not a cosplay costume, but a waitress suit that you can easily find in family restaurants in the US or Europe. The color is light pink. The skirt is a little short enough to go above the knee, but it's not too bad. Still, the reason Ellie is so surprised is because this waitress suit was the uniform of the Royal Fish and Chips store. No, that's absurd. How did you get this? Royal Fish and Chips was destroyed long ago and disappeared into the shadows of history. However, I searched hard and found the company that made the uniforms for Royal Fish and Chips at the time. And I ordered it to be the same. It was a very difficult process, easy to say. Without Taekyu's passion and dedication, I would never have been able to do it. Come on, try on. Ellie firmly shook her head. This is not possible. Never. Never. I can become a bunny girl, but can't this? Absolutely. How do you wear this? You promised to wear it unconditionally. Can a lawyer break his promise? What kind of cosplay is this? After nearly an hour of persuasion, Ellie kept her promise as a lawyer. After a while, Ellie changed her clothes and went out into her living room. She grew her hair again, so she looked almost exactly like her in the video. You look really young when you wear it like this. Taeyong clapped. 5. It suits you very well. Ellie pouted her lips, but she doesn't seem to hate the compliment. I raised my thumb. Can I be an advertising model? Ellie stared at me. Stop playing. If you tease me more, I will get angry. Then she let out her sigh and said, Sigh. Now that I'm wearing this outfit, I won't be ashamed anymore. I said carefully. Can't you just dance once with what you're already wearing? Dance. Taekyu turned on the audio as if he was waiting next to him. Then the Royal Fish and Chips CM song from the commercial came out. Whole family together. Everyone loves fish and chips. Royal fish and chips. Royal fi chip royal fi chip royal fi chip. Ellie, whose face was blushing so much, couldn't take it any longer and screamed. That's okay. I'm not wearing this. On Halloween Day. I was worried about what would happen if it rained, but the weather was very clear. The house was decorated with various Halloween decorations, and light refreshments and alcohol were placed along with the table in the garden. When all the front windows in the living room were opened, the garden and the living room were united as one. As a host, Taekyu showed enthusiasm for checking the progress one by one and giving instructions to the employees. He also prepared other people's clothes himself. This included my clothes. What is this? It's a royal fish and chips waiter suit. Is it a couple look with Ellie? As it is a uniform paired with a waitress uniform, pink is the base as well. What's with these outdated suspenders and bow tie? I was about to say why not wear it because the design is so ugly, but Ellie in a waitress suit put her arms next to her and said in a cold voice, "Wear it right now." Yeah. I had no choice but to wear a royal fish and chips waiter suit. Taekyu prepared cosplay costumes for those who haven't been able to prepare. On one side, 2 makeup specialists working in the special effects team sat down and decided to put makeup on the person they wanted. It was difficult to recruit them. On Halloween, the ransom price jumped tenfold. At this point, should Halloween be considered a national holiday? As the sun went down and it was time to start the party, people from the company and acquaintances gathered. Among my friends, I sang Minyoung and Kyungil. The two looked around the house in admiration. Wow. Now you have a party at home. Minyoung said as if curious. Can we come over here? What else can't be done? Kyungil, who looked around, was startled. Shin Yuri. Hello, seniors. Yuri dressed as a fairy. She wears a white toga dress and has large butterfly wings behind her back. It's a cosplay that goes well with bleached blonde hair. Where did that costume come from? Taekyu Appa sent one by one saying it would suit the staff well. This is how our vice president treats our employees. Come on. Ah, sister. Eli and Yuri held hands and rejoiced. Wow. My sister is so pretty. Thank you. Yuri also suits her clothes very well. She recognized Ellie's outfit and praised her with everyone who came. It's from that ad. I really liked the ad. How are you the same as back then? Each time Ellie blushed her face and rolled her eyes at me and I averted her gaze. Glass looked at the wine she had on the table and she was surprised. Wow. This is an expensive wine, can I drink it? Then, drink it all. I received a lot of wine as a gift but I don't drink it well anyway. Some of them are worth millions of won, but if you don't drink on a day like this, when will you drink? Team leader Jong Ki-hong wore the paladin from Lost Fantasy, and team leader Ju Hyun-jong wore priest costumes. This costume was also made to order by Taekyu. The quality is so high that they both look like they just popped out of the game. Sanjiop Sr. came with her lover, whom she started dating a few months ago. He is one of the hottest new movie stars these days. She was happy to see me. Hello Seo Kong Jin-hoo. I really wanted to see you. Nice to meet you. Can I take picture with you? It's not unusual now for celebrities to ask me for pictures. There were people who wore masks and dresses, people dressed as zombies, movie characters, made clothes, etc. Because it was Halloween, everyone had no objection to cosplay. Annika Hannah Young and Haeyoung Min cosplayed as characters from Lost Fantasy. Rogue, Summoner and Bard respectively. Min Ha-young, who couldn't keep up with the deadline whenever there was talk about StormCon, held Taekyu's arm and said with a look like she was about to cry. Okay, next time you have to take me too. I must finish it before then. I missed the opportunity to see the greatest StormCon on set, so it's a shame. It is said that if it was too unfair, he gave up the habit of always closing in real time, clenched his teeth and built up a stockpile. Changing a writer who doesn't keep deadlines into a sincere writer. Maybe this is Oh Taekyu's charm? Hyunju's older sister brought Gun-ai along with Henry. Gunny wore a pumpkin hat and cape, and Henry looked like Count Dracula, but Hyunju's sister wore her usual outfit. Of course I didn't do anything like cosplay. Taekyu said to his sister. Didn't you hear the party concept? Go over there, change your clothes and come back. Annoying. Then do this. Taekyu brought out a cat ear headband. Hyunju's older sister raised her eyes and looked at her younger sister. Are you kidding me? Then Henry spoke kindly. Try it. You have to follow the rules of the party organizer. Ellie said something. Yes. I even wore clothes like this. Hyunju Nuna didn't say anything to that protest. In the end he pretended not to win and wore his headband and Taekyu admired it. 5. My sister is cute. Shut up. Fits a lot better than I expected. Hyunju Nuna's face is that of a cat. Do the tail too, sister. Shut up. She thought she was going to be insulted. I think Henry is sorry. Is it your mood? She was frantically greeting people but Eli was nowhere to be seen. After a while she came back and Ellie's face had turned red before she knew it. She is still gulping the wine in her hand. Did she decide to get drunk quickly to overcome her embarrassment? Aren't you drinking too much? 8. I'll serve Jinhoo after all. Yes. Ellie smiled at me and leaned her back slightly. Welcome guest. What would you like to order? I said confused. What will happen? You can do whatever you want. Anything? Then maybe. Before she could finish her thoughts, Ellie pinched her arm. It can't be naughty. Yeah. We listened to music, drank and ate together. Seeing everyone laughing and talking happily made me happy too. The good thing about making a lot of money is that you can spend time with people you like so much, right? Above all else, you can see Ellie's cute appearance. The party that started in the evening ended around midnight. People who drank alcohol called a surrogate driver to go home. Senior Sanjiop got into her car and shook her head. Anyway, thanks to autonomous driving I can't even drive, but if you drink alcohol you're driving under the influence. It's a funny world. The US has changed laws every state, but when is Korea going to do it? Our parliamentarians have nothing to do. I got drunk when I saw politicians swearing. What are you talking about? I curse even when I'm not drunk. After sending all the guests back we went back to our room. Ellie was drunk and she hummed her hum as she sat across the bed. When I heard what kind of song it was none other than a Royal Peach and Chip CM song. He's really drunk. Ellie pursed her lips slightly and gave her a pouty expression. Haha, I think people will tease me with this for a while. Do you know how shy I was to go out in front of people in this outfit? I still wore it. That's because she wanted Jinhoo to wear it. Did you put it on for me despite your shame? Ellie said with a bashful smile. She probably doesn't know Jinhoo. How much I like Jinhoo. The moment she heard her words, her heart pounded violently. My girlfriend is really lovely. I patted her hair. The sweet scent of wine spilled from Ellie's lips with every breath she took. That dress suits you so well. You look so cute and young. Hey, that's a lie. Ellie pouted her lips, but she still didn't like it. Seems that she likes being told she looks younger than being pretty. I wore it once, so I throw it away now. Okay. Don't worry. I will take care of it. I'll keep it well and try again later. I'm here to meet someone I've known for a long time. After going through various procedures and waiting for a while, a middle-aged man wearing glasses came in. Chairman Jin Yong smiled and said to me, "It's been a while, mate. How have you been?" "Yes. I listen to your news every day." In the meantime he did a lot of work. It was a meeting not much different from before. If there's one other thing, this would be a detention center. He is known for wearing well-dressed clothes and having a good suit fit. But today he is dressed comfortably and modestly. A number is engraved on the chest of the blue shirt like a name tag. The reason I came so late was that Chairman Jin Yong had avoided personal visits to keep an eye on public opinion. It has subsided a bit now, but at the time of the arrest the country was noisy for a while. The Seosong Group is overwhelmingly number one in the business world. When Susong Electronics and Seosong SB are combined, they account for nearly half of the market cap of listed companies on the exchange. When the head of such a company was arrested, public opinion was divided. Under such circumstances, what would the public think if I and other business people met one after another? He and I have no choice but to be careful as each and every action is reported. As always, we are busy with each other. Read more at wuxiax.com. The prisoners may think that there is nothing to be busy with, but like other presidents, they are running a prison business. Are you okay with staying here? I am doing well. It was difficult at first, but now I've only gotten used to it. I don't just say it, I really eat well and sleep well. Not sure if it's a lie, the complexion looks better than when I saw it before. As some progressive groups have pointed out, they are incomparably comfortable with other prisoners. Even private toilets and showers are privileges that cannot be imagined in a detention center. In addition, except on weekends, he holds interviews with lawyers in a separate space every day. If you have a lot of money, you can enjoy these various benefits even after being detained. But no matter how comfortable the detention center is, would it be only a semi-basement single room? Even if you roll in the dog poop, you are better off alive, and even if you live in a Gazawan, society is better than the military. Chairman Im Jin-young said as a joke. I am just thinking about it. Haven't the other presidents visited at least once? When it comes to detention centers or prisons, it is a place where there is no lifelong relationship with most people. Unless you commit a serious crime, it usually ends with a fine or probation. However, it is also a place that presidents visit at least once. The chairman of the Won Group and the chairman of the SSK Group also came out. I'm going to go to the army that everyone else goes to. I'm also reading the books I've been putting off for a while. What book are you reading? I am rereading The Count of Monte Cristo. Are you going to escape? Chairman Im Jin-young burst into laughter at my words. When I have time, I am reading the application form. It's hard to see you after a long time. Thanks to his education from an early age, he is known to be fluent in English as well as French and Spanish. He says he has to write a conversation night interpreter, but it's envious that he can read the application. What do you think the trial will be like? It will probably be difficult. It's because the Blue House has a strong atmosphere. You can't easily step back from the yard where you've even been arrested. Chairman Im Jin-young is pursuing a strategy of receiving a lower sentence by dispersing his responsibilities for what his deceased father and close associates have done for him. It has a friendly image of getting along with the public without hesitation despite being a chaebol, and it is growing overwhelmingly in the IT and battery fields to the extent that it is said that Seosong Group is currently feeding Korea. Thanks to this, many jobs have been added, and the Korean economy continues to grow despite concerns about a global economic downturn. Public opinion strongly supported the release of Chairman Im Jin-young by a score of almost 7-3. Opposition parties also argued that they should be released because they were concerned about their contribution to Korea's economic development and the negative impact it would have on the economy. However, this logic only means that only ordinary people without money and power should obey the law, and the presidents should continue to release them no matter what crime they support. According to that logic, shouldn't I be released even if I commit a serial murder? Chairman Im Jin-young had a bitter expression on his face. To be honest, I want to leave immediately, but I'm just thinking of one thing. What? It is the last word in the novel of The Count of Monte Cristo. Do you know? I grinned and muttered. Wait. And have hope. I finished my visit to the detention center and returned to my office. Taekyu asked. Is your senior doing well? You wouldn't have to worry about it. Of course, this is not to worry about the chaebol. Even if they are found guilty, they will either be pardoned after the change of government, or they will be paroled after living for at least a year or two. Should this be called judicial justice or chaebol preferential treatment? It's a problem that can be easily solved as long as you follow the law. Then it would have been difficult for Chairman Im Jin-young to inherit the management rights. In the end, Everything is a problem because you try to pass down a successful company to your children without paying taxes. Some people may think that there is a problem with my company passing it on to my children, but the premise of this statement is wrong from the beginning. The owner of a corporation is the stockholder, not the chairman. In foreign countries, it is not uncommon for a founder to be expelled from the board of directors or general shareholders meeting if he or she mismanages. Even if he's not doing anything wrong, he sometimes fires someone who he thinks would do better in his place. Strangely, however, in Korea, firing a CEO is considered a sin. Is it because it is too natural to pass on the management right to your children? Then when you have children later, won't you pass on management rights? Of course. Ellie agreed. If you pass it on to your children will pass it on to your children. It's not like we're going to inherit the management right for millennia or 10,000 years. Well, until then, I don't know if I will run the business or not. To retire. Someday I will. It's not like we're going to run until we get into the coffin like our presidents. The size of the OTK company has already grown to an unbelievable size. Even though we are trying to let our subsidiaries do their own thing, without intervening in the management of our subsidiaries, we are increasingly forced to make complex decisions. I am doing well because I can see the future, but I do not know what will happen in the future. In some ways, it may be more difficult to select a successor and step down at the right time than to create and grow a company. As the calendar turns to November, one problem is solved and one problem has arisen. First, compensation for forced labor, the biggest issue in Korea-Japan relations, was confirmed. According to the proposal of the Korean government, Korean and Japanese companies contributed funds to pay compensation to the victims. Although the exact ratio has not been disclosed, it is known that approximately 2 Korean companies that benefited from the Korea-Japan Claims Agreement and 8 Japanese companies for forced labor bear the burden. The reason that the ratio has risen so much is the result of negotiations with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and diligently selling my name. When the compensation was paid, the survivors who took part in the lawsuit at the time shed tears of joy and hurrah. Taejayu said, "If I had given it earlier, it would have been over soon." Actually, money wasn't a big deal in the first place. However, Japan insisted that it could never pay in the name of reparation, as it was in the position that everything was over with the Korea-Japan Claims Agreement, but this time it had no choice but to bend its position. Taekyu asked, "Is it really all over with the claims agreement?" It's a bit different in interpretation. It is difficult to contain all the contents of a document, and there are different interpretations even for a single word. So Japan is interpreting it in their own way. If we had signed a good contract from the beginning, wouldn't this not have happened? At that time things couldn't be helped. At the time of the signing of the claims agreement, Korea was the poorest country whose entire territory was devastated by the Korean War, while Japan remained a powerful country even after the war. The post-war economic revival began due to the special circumstances of the Korean War. In the end, South Korea, who needs money, and Japan, who want to finish reparations quickly, coincided with each other, and the agreement was concluded. The funny thing is that even this is the largest amount of compensation an aggressor has paid to a victim. Among the powers that had colonial rule, it is unprecedented for a controlled country to pay such compensation. This is, of course, because Japan was a defeated country. However, if such compensation was unilateral damage to Japan, it is not. In order for a country to receive compensation for economic development, it must purchase various materials, parts, materials, and machinery. There is a country close by that makes such a thing very well, and that is Japan. The reparations flowed back into Japan's pockets, and as the country grew, so did its export markets. Compared to the money that Japan has earned through trade with Korea, the amount paid by the Korea-Japan Claims Agreement is nothing. In a way, it can be seen that they were a win-win for each other. In any case, the long-standing problem was over, and both countries were in an atmosphere of sighing. Although compensation was made, Japan still has not made an apology at the government level. Also, the comfort women issue has not yet been resolved. The Japanese government, which had previously talked about all sorts of nonsense about past history, has now avoided mentioning it at all. After criticism of the Japanese government's kneeling in compensation for forced labor, Japanese ministers once again visited the Yasukuni Shrine, where Class A war criminals are enshrined. Although Prime Minister Okazaki did not visit the shrine in person, he sent a tribute and announced that he would visit at the beginning of the year. When the South Korean and Chinese governments protested against this, the Japanese government pretended not to hear anything at all. Another problem arose in North Korea. Breaking news. Chairman Kim orders the removal of facilities on the southern side of MT Jumgang. North side to start independent development after demolition of MT Jumgang facility. Order to remove all sloppy southern facilities that make you feel bad just by looking at them. Critique that the development of MT Kumgang, which is dependent on South Korea, is based on the wrong policy establishment of predecessors. North Korea officially sent a demolition request to the South Korean government and companies. Jumgangsan tourism is nothing less than a symbol of inter-Korean economic cooperation. A tour of MT Kumgang was the only opportunity for South Koreans to set foot on North Korean soil. However, after the shooting of a tourist, tourism to MT Jumgang was suspended, and hotels and other facilities were frozen. With the arrival of the Hyo Chong-min government, inter-Korean relations have entered a thaw mode, and expectations for the resumption of tourism have recently risen significantly. The North suddenly unilaterally notified the demolition of the facility. Did you see it? This is the North Korean class. In architecture, he built Juche to thoroughly embody national firstism and the first in the masses. Ha 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 ha. Whoa. Respected leader, the building of capitalist enterprises for the purpose of pursuit of profit has been torn down, and in that place, with the power of the people, he built a modern and socialist service facility that embodies the demands and aspirations of the working masses. You said that the difference should be comprehensively and intuitively shown. What kind of bullshit is this? Do the people who insist on inter-Korean economic cooperation even after seeing this have brains, or don't they? This is the reality of North Korea. They're not even a band of thieves. Railroads and gas pipelines? It's funny and it's boring. Leave me alone. Huff wants to spread it. But why is North Korea suddenly doing this? I know. The most respected guy was slapped in the face in Vladivostok, and went to MT Jumgang to vent his anger. You looked at the article and said to me, no matter how you look at it, doesn't it seem like it's because of you? Huh. Didn't you touch the heart of supreme dignity in Vladivostok and sparks splattered up to MT Jumgang? That's why you can build railways and gas pipelines according to the wishes of Presidents Vysotsky and Hyo Chong-min? What if I tell them to tear down the railways and gas pipelines later? Surely. I wonder what. If it were them, they could tear off all the iron that went into it and put it in the Tobyop blast furnace to melt it. I can't say no. MT Kumgang tourism is North Korea's important means of earning foreign currency and a successful model for economic cooperation. It is currently on hiatus, but depending on the situation, it may be resumed at any time. Still, when you look at the people telling you to demolish it, it's really a country where common sense doesn't work. What would you do with this country? Is inter-Korean economic cooperation really impossible? As I was thinking that, my vision suddenly faded and something popped up in front of my eyes. After a while, when he came to his senses, he saw Taekyu pushing his face up to his nose. Ugh. Go away. What this time? I got up. I think I came up with a good way. Taekyu rubbed his eyes and said, it wasn't what you came up with, was it not, that Yeji told me? That's it. The Ministry of Unification and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs were again in an uproar at the North's unilateral notification of the removal of the Kumgangsan facility. The Ministry of Unification held an emergency meeting hosted by the minister. It doesn't look like we're going to try to force demolition right now. We have to look at not only Korea, but also the international community. If demolition was forcibly removed, which foreign company would build a factory in North Korea in the future? Even if they are located in North Korea, buildings and other facilities are clearly South Korean assets. The North Koreans also knew about it, so they handed over the voluntary demolition to the South. It's your property, so it's up to you to take it back. Even if you want to forcibly demolish it, you probably don't have the money. The North's announcement of demolition would not be sincere. It was just an act to show that we were this angry. Can be seen as a kind of brinkmanship tactic. The problem with this tactic is that you can really fall off a cliff if you do it wrong. But anyway, North Korea doesn't get any worse than the current situation. That's why people who don't have anything are the scariest in the world. What do you say about the request for a working-level meeting? The North is refusing to hold talks. We have been informed in writing to exchange opinions. Unification Minister Yoon Ji-hoon asked. He clicked his tongue inside him. I think we will take the initiative by creating a shape that we cling to from the start of the meeting. It's not surprising since I've done it several times already. What do you think is the reason why North Korea suddenly came out this way? At that question, there was a sudden silence in the conference hall. Everyone had one person in their head, but no one came up with that name. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs was in a similar situation. Minister of Foreign Affairs Kim Song-cheol once again wrapped his arms around his head. No, why are you angering us after being beaten by Kang Jin-hoo? Foreign affairs are the responsibility of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But if the diplomatic partner is North Korea, it is under the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Unification. Therefore, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs focused only on understanding the situation. I was in contact with the National Intelligence Service and the Korean Embassy in China, and an aide came up to me and said, "There's a call. I think you should take it." Foreign Minister Kim Song-cheol shook his head. "If you're not above me, I'm busy right now, so I'll call you later." When the assistant couldn't answer easily, he raised his head and asked, "Are you above or below me?" That. Even including the legislative branch rather than the executive branch, there are few people above the minister. Still, the aide had an expression on his face saying, "I have never asked such a difficult question in my life." "Who is calling?" "I am the CEO of Jinhookong." "This is worth worrying about." Foreign Minister Kim Song-cheol answered the phone right away. "Hello, CEO Kang Jin-hoo. How did you keep in touch?" "I met with Minister of Foreign Affairs Kim Song-cheol. I can go to the office." "No. There are too many eyes to see. In the current situation, if the media is known for nothing, it can lead to speculation. So, did you come in a private car rather than an official car, and instead of getting off at the lobby, you took the elevator from the underground parking lot and went straight up? You must have been busy, but you worked hard to come." "No. Looking at what the representative asked to see, there must be a good reason, right? If you call him for no good reason, it sounds like he will not stand still." "I read the article. What do you think the government is responsible for?" "This is a very difficult situation for us. As you know, we were scheduled to conduct economic cooperation with North Korea through inter-Korean talks in Vladivostok, and the resumption of tourism to MT Jumgang was included in the discussion. So it seems that Yunsong Jumgang Seo Han Byung-sun also came." "Yes. But because the talks broke down, the North seems to be very disappointed, so I think that I am just arguing about the Jumgangsan facility for nothing, and there are also some stories that Chairman Kim was greatly offended by various things." "Take you pointed at me. Just tell me it's because of him." "I think so too." Foreign Minister Kim Song-cheol waved his hand. "Oh no, it's not like that. However, the North Korean side is not directly mentioning it, but I think it is hoped that the representative would express an apology or regret." "Will it be okay if I apologize?" Foreign Minister Kim Song-cheol smiled bitterly. "Actually, I don't think so. If you make a mistake, you might end up dragging yourself around." "Does the government plan to conduct a railroad and gas pipeline connection project in conjunction with the Rajan project?" He sighed in response to my question, revealing his true feelings. He sighed in response to my question, revealing his true feelings. I wonder if it is even possible under the current circumstances. I nodded. I wish I could meet a North Korean official and talk a bit. Is it possible? Foreign Minister Kim Song-cheol met with Unification Minister Yoon Ji-hoon right away and delivered Kang Jin-hoo's words. As matters related to North Korea are under the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Unification, the first decision was made by the Minister of Unification, and approval rested with the President. CO Kang Jin, who wants to meet the North Korean side? That's right. Are you going to apologize for what happened last time? It doesn't seem like that. But it seemed like there was some good solution. Minister of Foreign Affairs Kim Song-cheol said as if persuading. Whether we like it or not, we absolutely need the help of President Kang Jin-hoo to solve the North Korean problem. Who can be alone with the presidents of the United States and Russia at any time. Currently, investment in North Korea is not easy due to UN and US sanctions. In this railway and gas pipeline business alone, Russia will directly invest, and Korea will take over a part of Russia's investment stake. It's kind of a bias. It's not a violation of the law, but it could be a problem if you make it a problem. In fact, Japan is setting up fish farms next to it for nothing. But Jin Ho-kong is an American hero. If he does, the US administration and Congress will not put the brakes on it. Besides, he is also very friendly with Russia. Considering the current situation in Korea, he is the talent we need more than ever. The government is well aware of the importance of Kang Jin-hoo. The problem is that I can't really control it. There are one or two politicians who have been cut by a knife called Kang Jin-hoo. Using a weapon you can't control is inevitably repulsive. But he had a certain amount of power. His influence on the international community is greater than that of any other country. It is said that Korea's national power has risen several stages because of this. We are also refusing to have a working-level meeting. Will the North Korean side agree to it? Minister of Foreign Affairs Kim Song-cheol said firmly. I will. Because the opponent is Jin Ho-kong. Unification Minister Yoon Ji-hoon thought for a while and nodded. It's a situation that needs a breakthrough anyway, so it's okay to give it a try. I will report to the President. I spoke to President Ronald after a long time. How are you? Yes. You don't come to America very often these days. Last time I saw it, Russia was going well. It sounds as if you're bored and want to come play. There is nothing special, but I will go once I see the President. I found a good hamburger restaurant near the White House. Currently, the United States is negotiating defense costs with South Korea. Fortunately, the amount was not very large. It is expected to end at a line that is about 10% higher than it is now. This was the case not only in Korea but also in NATO and Japan. Compared to when he was forced to pay more defense expenses at the beginning of his inauguration, he has become much more moderate. Previously, they only cried out for the interests of the United States, but now they are taking care of the alliance to some extent. The reason for this is because the Allies contributed their strength to the rescue and support at the time of Big One. It is only when your house catches on fire that you know that your neighbor is precious. How are you preparing for re-election? Even if you are a hero of the country, your approval rating will drop over time. After Big One, the approval rating, which reached 90%, gradually declined over time. Still, it's still over 70%. It's going well. If I have time next year, I'll come out to the rally. Politics in the United States is governed by a large two-party system, the Democrats and Republicans. Many people mistakenly think that only Democrats and Republicans can run for candidates, but in reality there are multiple parties and different candidates compete with each other. But anyway, they are out of interest as they can't even secure a single electoral college. Anyway, as the approval ratings of both parties are similar, there is always a close match. In this election, Ronald was sure to win. What people care about is how many electoral colleges they have. There was even talk that he could sweep the electoral college for the first time in American history. As it is a winner-take-all system anyway, It is possible to secure all the electoral colleges independently of the overall approval rating. If there is a little variable, it is that various scandals that had subsided for a while after Big One are rising to the surface again. Sex scandals popped up one by one if you could forget them, such as having an affair with Russia, tax evasion as a businessman, etc. Fortunately, none of them were fatal. I suddenly remembered what Grace Rothschild said. He said he had a card that would force Ronald to resign himself? Is that really true, or was it just a saying? I think so, Ronald asked. More than that, there was talk that he was going to meet with North Korea. I stuck out my tongue. Have the rumors spread there already? Now, the words should have been delivered to the North Korean side. Looking at this, it seems that the CIA is not playing. What do you plan to do when we meet? Let's take this opportunity to promote the railroad and gas pipeline business. Isn't it a good business that everyone can benefit from? Ronald's reaction was surprising. As you know, North Korea can change its language at any time. If it falls over while the investment is in progress, the damage would not be so much. So I thought of a way. I don't think it's a bad thing for America either. Ronald was curious. Tell me once. After a while, Ronald heard my story and burst into laughter. Haha, there was a way. How did you come up with it? One day it suddenly occurred to me. In fact, Yeji showed it. What if North Korea refuses? As Yeji showed, there will be no such thing. Well, if you don't like it, there's nothing you can do about it. But wouldn't that be too much to refuse? He burst out laughing again. Actually, even if you're like me, I can't refuse. Breaking news. North and South accept proposals for working-level talks. Inter-Korean ministerial meeting. Can we find a solution to the MT Kumgong problem? To meet at Panmunjom. OTK Company CEO Kong Jin-hoo and Vice President, Eun Sung-jim Kong President Han Byung-sun, included in the South Korean delegation. Chosen Central TV. The South must first show a sincere attitude. Jin-ho Kong, the possibility of an apology for the past remarks. The eyes of the world were focused on Panmunjom and the internet went into chaos. Just take all the facilities of MT Jumgang. What is a conference? Why is Kong Jin-hoo over there? Are you red? It seems that Chongmin Hyo forced me to apologize. Hyo Kong Jin-hoo. If you're going out for NIS threats, please give me a carrot. It happened because of Kong Jin-hoo in the first place, so it is right that Kong Jin-hoo apologizes. No, what the hell are you going to apologize for? Is it such a mortal sin to say that the most respected person should guarantee the progress of the business? Haha, there are so many injections. I first met the Minister of Unification and the delegation with Taekyu. Since the seat is a seat, Taekyu also wore a suit unlike usual. Unification Minister Yoon Ji-hoon shook hands and said, North Korea is a very sensitive opponent, both politically and diplomatically. Please refrain from making protruding remarks like last time. I nodded. I will never do anything that could harm the country, so don't worry. Before departing for Panmunjom, there was a brief briefing on the composition of the North Korean delegation and the contents of the talks. The North Korean delegation is headed by Ri Hae-ryong, vice chairman as in the last time, and the heads of the National Peace and Reunification Committee and vice presidents will attend. It took less than 2 hours from Seoul to Panmunjom. Upon arriving at Panmunjom, Taekyu looked around in wonder. 5. This is my first visit to Panmunjom. It's my first time too. I can't believe I'm in a place I've only seen on the news. If one crosses the line, it is North Korean territory, and the North Korean People's Army, which you see occasionally in movies, was standing there. He stands with a firm figure, but somehow I feel pity for him. Well, I feel pity for our soldiers standing on the other side as well. Everyone is conscripted and suffers a lot. We entered the conference hall. The rectangular-shaped conference hall had entrances on both the north and south sides. After a while, the North Korean delegation who came in through the opposite door had a hard expression on their face. Some people stared at me with their backs upright as if they were looking at me as if they were a bastard in the world. We shook hands and sat down. The meeting was held in a heavy atmosphere from the beginning. Vice Chairman Lee Hae-ryong spoke first. I would like to hear your opinion on how and by when the facilities in the south will be demolished. The chairman wants to demolish the facilities in the south that do not fit well as soon as possible and build a new people-friendly and socialist building in its place. The plan is to move away from the MT Jumgang tourism method that was conducted through inter-Korean cooperation, and to completely exclude the south and proceed independently. Of course, this can't be right. This is a breach of contract. It is impossible to demolish the Jumgangsan facility until the contract period is over. How much longer are you going to hold on to that sloppy facility? A boring conversation ensued. Taekyu covered his mouth and yawned. He talked about the clauses in the contract piece by piece and told them to keep them, but he didn't seem to listen. Isn't a word of supreme dignity above the contract? Aren't these buildings that have not been used for more than 10 years and are all ruined anyway? Why not demolish something that is already nothing more than ruins? If the south side is having a hard time, we will dispose of it on our own. Unification Minister Yoon Ji-hoon said as if persuading. Even if it looks bright from the outside, it can be used again with a little maintenance. Demolition of the facility and rebuilding it would be a burden on the North Korean side as well. Vice Chairman Lee Hae-ryong said with a snort. Do you think you will sell the pride of the Republic for a penny? During the arduous march, our people did not open their hands to the outside while devouring the root bark. Read more at wuxiax.com. Taekyu, who was listening quietly, asked with an innocent expression. Didn't the party executives eat well and live well even then? It is the people who starve to death. At those words, Vice Chairman Lee Hae-ryong as well as the North Korean delegation frowned. A government that starved the people to death in the first place does not even deserve to exist. However, it is politics that you have to face and negotiate with these guys, and economics is that you have to hold hands when you have money. I couldn't see it either. It's a penny. Isn't North Korea in need of that penny right now? At my words, Director Kim Gil-myung abruptly stood up and shouted. On the subject of a filthy evil capitalist. You dare to mock our people with that penny. Vice Chairman Lee Hae-ryong reached out and stopped him. He spoke in a calm but strong tone. I will never forget what happened today. There will be no negotiations with the South in the future, and I will definitely pay for it. Our republic is not afraid of war. The North Korean delegation got up all at once and tried to leave the conference room, and our delegation was bewildered. If the talks are over in this state, North Korea will really tear down the MT Kumgang facility right away. When Unification Minister Yoon Ji-hoon jumped up to catch the North Korean delegation, I opened my mouth again. What if it wasn't a penny? 55 trillion won. So $50 billion. At those words, Vice Chairman Lee Hae-ryong stopped for a moment. Then he turned his head and asked me, what did you just say? I said $50 billion. Vice Chairman Lee Hae-ryong's face changed. It was the same for everyone whether it was the South or the North. Unification Minister Yoon Ji-hoon looked at me with his eyes wide open. Hyo Kong-jin-hu. What? Vice Chairman Lee Hae-ryong asked again. You mean that OTK company will invest $50 billion? OTK company is an American company. Therefore, we have an obligation to comply with the U.S. government sanctions on North Korea. Also, this is not an investment but pure profit. If you'd like to hear more, why don't you sit down again? He said with a chin, whether it would hurt his self-esteem to comply with that statement. Tell me first. If it's nonsense, I'll take responsibility. After losing the Pacific War, Japan paid compensation to the victims according to the San Francisco Peace Treaty. The Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia, Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, Micronesia, etc. were compensated for damages or given grant aid, including Korea. But North Korea has not yet finalized an agreement with Japan. As they are currently under economic sanctions by the UN, they cannot receive cash payments right away. However, if the sanctions are lifted in the future, it is definitely money you can get back. As Japan must also pay according to the San Francisco Treaty, this issue has already been discussed several times between the two countries. I said, leaning my back on the chair. I think Japan is thinking about $20 billion. How much more do you think you can raise if I get involved in this negotiation?